Good evening, everyone. We want to call to order the January 24th School Board of Manatee County regular meeting. And we have, for the second item on the agenda, reading of the district's vision by Ms. Spray.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome for the first evening meeting of the year. The vision is the school district of Manatee County will be an exemplary student-focused school system that develops lifelong learners to be globally competitive. And that is our statement, Chair.
Unfortunately, we do not have the color guard from Bayshore High School is experiencing some issues getting over here. So we will add them into the next meeting. We can get them there. So, Ms. Spray, back to you if you want to introduce who you have for the invocation.
Do we want to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
We'll do the pledge after the invocation, yeah.
Okay, I have invited Mr. Jack May from West Bradenton Baptist Church, who is an adult studies educator of the Bible and is a scholar, someone that you can call and ask for scripture for about any life situation. So, Mr. May, if you please.
And if everybody will stand. Yeah, come up.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's a great opportunity anytime that we can pray together. Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, first of all, we want to ask your blessings on our students. We ask that you give them a desire to learn. We ask for your blessings on our teachers. Give them empathy and creativity. We ask for your blessings upon the staff. Give them hearts for serving others. We ask you for blessings upon the administrators. Give them wise and discerning minds. And finally, Lord, we ask your blessings on this school board. Grant them patience and understanding, wisdom, and great leadership as we step forward to do what we're here to do, and that's for the children of Manatee County. Father, we ask for your blessings completely, earnestly, and totally. We pray these things in the great name of Jesus Christ, my Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we move to number 6, informational only, the leaves for January 24, 2023. No board action required. That was posted to the agenda. Item number 7, approval of the agenda. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under the agenda amendments on the January 24, 2023 agenda, updated January 20th, 2023, and posted to the district website, manateeschools.net.
So moved.
Second.
We have a second. Thank you. Go ahead and we'll vote on I legislate for the approval of the agenda. You on there, Mr. Tatum, or no?
Yep. There we go.
All right, thank you. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And approval of the minutes, item number 8, Superintendent.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the minutes for the school board workshop on January 6th, 2023, school board meeting on January 10th, 2023, and the school board workshop on January 13th, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a move and a second. Any discussion? Let's go ahead and cast our votes now. Vote passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And item number 9, student celebrations. The 2022 Congressional District App Challenge winner, Mr. Barber. We're under your lead.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair and board members and Superintendent Saunders. we have a very special recognition this evening, and it comes from U.S. Congressman Vern Buchanan's office. He represents the 16th District here in Florida, which contains a portion of Sarasota County, all of Manatee County, and a portion of Hillsborough County. And with us here tonight is Chloe Conboy. She's the Deputy District Director for Congressman Buchanan. So, Chloe, it's good to have you. It's great to have Jace Billingsley here. He's an 8th grader at Buffalo Creek Middle School. One of the great things about having him here this year is we get to see how much he's grown in the last year. I think you're taller than you
I say last time he was here, he's not as tall.
Sure.
The reason we know that is because in December of this year, Congressman Buchanan recognized Jace as being the winner of the 2022 Congressional App Challenge for the 16th Congressional District of the state of Florida. Jace won the award for designing a software application that helps foreign language students translate school lessons in real time. So the app is named Class Translate, and I'm going to let him tell you more about the app in just a moment. But the amazing thing is, Jace was here 1 year ago because a year ago he won as a 7th grader at Buffalo Creek Middle School. He won the app challenge from Congressman Buchanan's office for an app called the Code Blue app, which helps healthcare workers accurately time various interventions used to resuscitate patients experiencing cardiac or respiratory failure. So here with Jace tonight, we have his parents, Jamie and Jennifer Billingsley. We have Buffalo Creek Middle School principal, Brad Scarborough, and then we have one of his teachers, engineering and technology teacher at Buffalo Creek Middle, Thomas Leahy. So we're glad to have you here, and Jace, we're extremely proud of your accomplishments. Please tell us a little bit more about your app, okay?
Class Translate is an application that is based on the Google Translate API. So it uses Google Translate, but expands on it and changes it to help more in a classroom environment. So it's used for foreign language students, and it adds more features such as downloadable transcripts, translation verifications, and just the easy-to-use layout that helps with those students. I got the idea initially when I was in Mr. Leahy's class, and we had a student that did not speak English, and we had sort of a struggle talking to him sometimes. He could do the work fine, but just telling him what to do took a little bit of time. And I started creating the application, and it started to go really well. We've used it before, and now he knows enough English to work without it. But I would like to thank Mr. Leahy for giving me the opportunity to partake in the Congressional App Challenge for the past 2 years as he introduced it to me.
This year's winning entry that Jace submitted will be featured on congressionalappchallenge.us, and he will also be eligible to have photos of the interface of his app posted and displayed in the U.S. Capitol. So we're all pulling for that. And again, Jace, congratulations on being here 2 years in a row. Are you eligible again next year? Or?
I think so.
Okay, we'll be excited to see what he comes up with next.
I got a couple questions for Jace.
Okay.
So, and Mr. Leahy, did you used it in class already? Yes, sir. And are you ready to, is it patent, are we ready to sell it, copyright, are we ready to roll with this thing?
All of my applications I've created are online and open source, so essentially free to use, and I do not have any copyrights or patents on them.
Any other questions? for
Just,
Jace?
just comment. Congratulations. That's quite the honor. I know Congressman Buchanan is very proud of you. I know we are in Manatee County. I just saw him last night, to be honest. So congratulations. We need entrepreneurs like yours. I think I would get a copyright, but thank you for all your hard work, and, you know, the parents, thank you for supporting all the endeavors these students, you know, get involved with. It takes that kind of initiative and out-of-the-box thinking to support our demographics in Manatee County, so congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Barber. All right, that moves us to item number 10, public comments for up to 30 minutes. I have on my list, number 1, Doreen Chaluka. Followed by Donnell Fullerton. Evening.
Good evening.
Ready when you are.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hello, I'm Doreen Chalupka Costantino, art teacher at Pomasola Elementary School. This is the home for the past 23 years and Ballard for 2 years, totaling 25 years in Manatee County Schools. My daughters attend Pomasola Elementary from kindergarten through 5th. This evening, we are honoring our principals, Jenny Grimes and assistant Mrs. Sills. They held a voluntary staff meeting this past week on January 17th, 2023 at 3:45 p.m. As they stated, they are not union members and they are not protected. They stated many rumors and significant matters of Pomasola Elementary School and now they can't even look at us. I hope all realize a petition was established to save Pomasola Elementary School this past Saturday evening, January 21st, 2023, and generated 1,899 supporters in little over 24 hours. As of right now, 2 seconds ago, there are 3,134 supporters and still growing. Because no one knows, the parents don't know. Because this is our home to Pomasola Elementary School's families, staff, and community for generations. We all have amazing memories throughout the years and have to say, and read everyone's comments and memories literally brings tears to my eyes. I have a hard time reading of the comments in the petition aloud to my family, friends, and even to myself, because in a strange way, it feels like we're reading through an obituary. All of the memories combined are why Pomasola has to continue the generations to come. No one can ever take our school from us, but I know and have confidence that we will all crash this rumor and proposed plan, whatever that might be. We are supposed to be rebuilt like all the other schools and watch the school be renovated or redesigned, but all was supposed to stay, and now all of a sudden we are fighting for the same. We want Pomasola students to have their home and future generations and all in the past. Everyone is supporting us. Don't stop. Let's all continue to act together as we save Pomasola Elementary School. Pomasola is not known for robotics, but it is a school with a title like no other. Pomasola Elementary has the school title family, generations of family through memories and traditions and events and festivals. The families and staff truly get along. The staff members are always reminded by other school employees that they wish and want to teach at Pomasola and cannot wait for some of us to retire so they can become that family. The generations of families have shown outstanding test scores, and that's not most important. It's the inner being, love, knowledge, and all a part of outstanding school dynamic like no other school. Family. Pomasola chose family when the school first opened in 1961 and has embraced the title throughout the years. And we're not letting our lands come from underneath us or who knows what. We learned the school was supposed to rebuild possibly in 2024 and 25, but was never spoken to take any of our families away. Please help us. I today, as a teacher at Pomasola, was the first person to witness a student come to me. You guys have the option.
Thank you.
Please look in their eyes and vote correctly. Thank you.
Donnell Fullerton. So just real quick, I know there's a lot of support for Pomasola here. There's no question. I ask though that this is still a business meeting, so the applause and that if we can just not do that. She knows that you're here to support, but we can't have that at everything. You know, every single time someone comes and talks about something, have that outburst. So if you could please just refrain from that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. So Donnell Fullerton, in here or not here? Deanna Brinkley, followed by Jennifer Lynn Wayman.
Well, we've come to the end of the road, I think. We've worked really hard this year on the inappropriate materials in the schools. I think we had a lot of processes that worked, didn't work, but together we were able to come to a good end. I think we aired on what was appropriate for all. It was not about parents against the teachers. It was doing what needed to be done, a little of a cleaning of house. Now we have laws, new policies, and thank you, Ms. Saunders, for implementing things so fast and swiftly, especially now. I know it's going to be a tough road right now. It seems like it's tough for the teachers, but we are here to support them. We've got volunteers ready to come into the classrooms. We want to do this as quickly as possible. And in the end, it is going to be a much better streamlined system for everybody, parents, teachers, administration, to know what's there. There won't be any more questions. And I know it's going to bridge the gap back between the teachers and the parents of trust and accountability and transparency. So I just want to say thank you for all the hard work that everyone has done this year.
Thank you. Ms. Wayman, excuse me. Then Paula Lonis is next. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Lynn Wayman. I want to follow up on what Deanna said. A lot of us are willing to go into the schools and help the teachers go through the books because I know it seems a bit overwhelming. I have no problem getting people to help them do that. As a former PTO president of the State College of Florida Collegiate School for 8 years, when I started reading some of these books, I was mortified. I would have pulled my children out of school had I seen that kind of filth. So I am more than happy to go in and help get rid of it. It's definitely adult material with adult themed that children should not be exposed to. So like I said, I can help get a bunch of parents, go in there and help these teachers out. Again, I know a lot of the parents can't spend the time that I did in the school for 8 years, in and out watching my kids to make sure none of this infiltrated them or, you know, they got a hold of any of this type of information. But again, we're all here to help, and we'll all mobilize and get it done. So you do have help. I just wanted to let you guys know that. So don't think that the teachers are all on their own with this. We're more than happy to mobilize and get in there and get it done as quick as possible so we can get this stuff out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lonis? Hi. Evening.
Hi, Paula Lonis here. Hi, Richard. I am also very thankful for Manatee County really jumping in and getting ahead of this and really taking a leadership role for the state. I too was appalled by some of the material that I've seen that is available in these schools. I was able to go on to the website and type in titles and see things that were in the library, things that would make all of us in here blush. What I find interesting, though, is the lady doth protest too much. I'm seeing these crazy tweets and Facebook posts of these teachers that are putting sheets over their books and turning the bookcases around, saying that they're banning all books and my children in the classroom no longer have access to books, and that is a lie. No one's library has been shut down. It couldn't be further from the truth. And the challenge for that is they're trying to stir up emotion, which I understand you want to get people out to protest for your area, but they're protesting taking pornography out of the classrooms, glorifying illicit drug use, transgender agendas. There are books that have grown men kissing and groping each other's groins. There are pictures of oral sex in high school and middle school books. I'm not kidding here. So if they don't have these books in their libraries, there is no reason for them to shutter their libraries. The teachers were supposed to be logging in all of their materials that were going to be vetted through the librarian or the media center. If they didn't do that, that's part of their job. Now, I think it's great that we have a lot of parents that are going to come in and volunteer to help, but it's part of their job. I mean, if I had a job and I didn't do a big piece of it and I wasn't in compliance and I'm in HR and payroll, if I'm not in compliance, my business gets a fine. We get in a lot of trouble. So if they're not in compliance with this, that is a problem. So for those teachers that are protesting so much, outrageously, thank you, because now we know who some of the radicals are. That they are so upset that, heaven forbid, we take these materials out of the hands of our children. So, of course, like the other parents here, I'm happy to volunteer to help with those lists as well. But really, that is the teacher's responsibility to log all those materials and keep them out of the hands of our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Barber? Pat? No? This is, we don't, it's not. Oh, you did not sign up for general public, so you picked an actual item in the agenda?
Yes, I did.
Which item was that you said?
After the presentation.
That wasn't, I mean, that's not a votable.
Okay.
Was it on there for you to choose?
Yes.
Okay, then that's on our end. So that's fine. I mean, if that's on our end electronically, we should have not had that just because it was a voting item, but that's fine. George Druist, followed by Marie Masfer.
Good evening.
Evening.
I want to give my support, first of all, the school board members in this new year, and hope you have all the best success and have a good year. Also, I heard the superintendent is moving on.
Retiring in June.
Well, I wish you luck, best of luck in the future. Thank you very much. This morning, I turned local television on. I saw 2 or 3 of the commentators talking about this meeting tonight, and they said it's going to be important, and there's going to be a lot of people here. I expected more. And not a lot of problems either. There's no cops here. Anyway, the issue was about the material in the school library, and all I wanted to do really was express my support for the parents that came here to show up and say things. God gave the children to the parents, and they also have the primary responsibility to educate the kids, and they've asked you folks to help them out in that regard. So I want to just give you my hope and expectation that you'll listen to them, consider what they have to say, and act accordingly. So good luck with everything, and I hope everything works out, all right?
Thank you. Ms. Masfer. And then followed by Margaret Harvey.
Good evening. My name's Marie Masfer. I am the board member at large for Florida Association for Media and Education. I spent 26 years in public schools, 12 of them here in Manatee County. I've never been so glad that I drive an hour to work every day. I'm sorry to have to say that because I am here for one reason. I'm here for the children. Something you didn't hear when we were talking about books and instructional materials were our kids. And I'm so glad that during our invocation, he mentioned building a desire to learn. And number one in that is getting children to read. And part of that is their self-selection and what is available. If you truly believe there's something inappropriate in a classroom in this county with your teachers, I urge you to go directly to that teacher and that principal because it's not happening. And like Mark Twain said, facts are stubborn things. And I am here because my last school that I worked in was Nolan Middle School. And I received a text and an email forwarded to me of the trauma. What was created last week was trauma in our children who said, please don't do this. Please don't take away our books. The fact is, there are principals and there are schools that were acting out of bounds of what the district said, and they told teachers they had to cover the books and even turn them to the wall. They even said, if you do not, they threatened them with a 3rd-degree felony, which is an old law we used to look at, but I saw it coming, and I even emailed Tommy Gregory to say, look, they're going to start using this against libraries 2 years ago, and here we are. So you tell me what a classroom teacher would do if they say you're going to suffer from a 3rd-degree felony. So what I would like to ask the board, number one, with a change this large, why were you not notified? If it's changing in the classroom, you have a district policy. It is right here on paper, and it's attached. Actually, this is the training from the DOE that we have to do as media specialists. Right here is a process. I'm urging the board to put this process in place. There's a process for agreeing to those books, but open up the classroom libraries while the process can be done. We don't need parents. Yes, we need them for help and hands, but you have educated, certified teachers and librarians who are ready to do the work, and it is a heavy lift. You have to remember some of your elementary librarians are serving as your tech people as well as music and art teachers. They have full classes every day. I used to do my book orders on Christmas and holidays because I had 7 classes a day every day when I worked in Manatee County. I received information from Dr. Breslin that said principals have the choice of what it is in their libraries. If they are not following the district policy, they are violating state law. That is a fact. So by Dr. Breslin saying that principals can change what the review committee has submitted, which they have, they've pulled books off your review committee has said are fine to remain in classrooms. They're breaking state law. Please, at your workshop, tonight I'll hope you say that the classroom libraries can be returned immediately. But at your workshop, please remove the books that are stuck in limbo. One is The Hate You Give. Yes, there are expletives in this book, but it is for high school, and that's my time. But please, I will email you the rest of my points for your workshop because I think it's extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey?
I'm here to support Pamasola Elementary. I have lived in Manatee County since 1977, and I'm going to ask you, each and every one of you, what is your legacy going to be being on this board? Is it going to be tarnished or polished? And that's all I need to know. And another thing, both my children had the same kindergarten teacher, and I can still remember her order for Starbucks, vanilla soy latte. And my daughter graduated from the University of Florida as a dentist at 24 years old from her beginnings at Pamasola Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not cheer for her because she hasn't slept in 5 days.
That concludes our public comment, people who have signed up for public comment. We'll move to new business. Item number 15, new business, superintendent recommendation. Did I skip something?
Reports and presentations?
Yeah.
Oh,
Item number 11.
Yeah.
yep, I'm sorry, went right over that. My apologies.
Yeah.
Reports number 11.
11's after 10.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
All right.
Reports and presentations. We're going to go with the internal accounts update by Chair Beckert. Sorry, skipped right over you. My apologies.
No problem. So this is up. So can you see this as I say next? I see it here. I just don't know.
I don't see it on our projection. Oh, there we
It's
go.
there.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure being in front of the board today. I'm just going to go over our brief required communications of the audit of the internal accounts for the year. So a brief introduction of our client service team. Scott Anderson was our engagement director. Lauren Strope was our second partner review. Steve Siegel was our technical director. He's actually in the Tampa office. So if we have anything of a technical matter that came up accounting wise, we would run it to him and see what the best treatment would work for the school district. My name is DeWanna Coleman. I am your manager that was on the engagement. And then Natalie Sprouting is our senior associate. She is right here. And she will go over some of our findings. And if we have any questions on specific findings, she'll be happy to address those for us. Moving on to page 3. Come on. Is our agenda. Just a few quick things we'll go over. Results of the audit, if there were any corrected or uncorrected mixed statements, qualitative aspects, independence considerations, required communications, and a few other matters. Results of the audit. We were actually able to issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements for the internal accounts. This is the highest opinion that you can receive on the accounts. That means that there was no material weaknesses or internal controls that we found and had to report as far as the financial statements are performed. We did have, of course, a couple of findings specifically related to the schools and some things that weren't correct based on Red Book standards. But as far as the financial statements are concerned, you have an unmodified or a clean opinion. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Every year we have to report if there were any journal entries that we have to post through getting our financial statements. So that would mean we received a trial balance from the district, and then there was entries that we found that we had to post through the times of our review. We have no corrected or uncorrected misstatements, which means there was no journal entries that had to be made from our end into the financial statements. So just some qualitative aspects of our accounting practices. There were no new accounting policies adopted during the year, so there's nothing that changed as far as their accounting treatment during the year. Everything is the same as it was for the prior year. Of course, during the course of our financial statements, we have to make sure that all related party transactions are disclosed, that there's no new related parties that we are looking for, if there's no significant transactions with those related parties. During our course of our audit, we found that there were no new related parties. Every related party is, of course, for parties that we would expect to see that we're familiar with and had transactions in the normal course of business. It's also a part of our accounting standards. We have to look to see if there's any significant or unusual transactions during the year. Just because something is significant or unusual doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem. Not this applies to the district, but say, for instance, you got a significant amount of debt, or if there was a significant grant receivable or something a little bit out of the unusual, we would just we would add some communications about it here. Doesn't mean that there's a material weakness or there's anything that's wrong, just something that is a little bit unusual and out of the normal circumstances that we want to bring your attention to. And there was nothing to note. As part of our audit every year, we do a test to make sure that we are independent. And part of that is to make sure that that we check with the team to see if there's if anyone's on the board, if anyone has done anything during the year that would make us not independent of the board. And we are independent of the Manatee County School Board. We did assist with the preparation of the financial statements, which does not hinder our independence. Just some other required communications. There was no difficulties encountered. There were no disagreements with management that we need to bring to your attention. There was no consultations with outside auditors that we would have to reach to. We did receive our management representation letter back in November 9th, so you should have your issued financial statements by now. There's no other findings or issues to report. There are no fraud or illegal acts. Of course, Manatee County is not a going concern, so there's nothing to report there as far as that consideration is concerned. And this is just some other matters on our supplementary information. This just means that there's some information within the financial statements that's considered supplementary, which means that we do it in relation to opinion, which means we audited the financial statements, and based on that information, we're comfortable that the supplementary information is accurate. And then the next pages are just our findings for the schools. I know I have sent this before. Do you have any questions on the findings that we sent over previously, or anything that you'll need us to go over?
Anyone have any questions? I don't have anybody lit up to speak. Was that the end of the presentation?
Yes, that's the end of it, unless there's some questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just for the public's information, what we're looking at here, this is an audit of what we might call, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the internal accounts of each school. Like they do a fundraiser to pay for field trips and stuff like that. And so what you're doing is going in and you're making sure that they're following the accounting practices and policies and making sure that all that money is accounted for, that it's deposited in the correct way, and that we're doing the right thing. And that is what you looked at in this audit. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, this is the audit of the internal account. So they have Red Book standards that they're supposed to follow. So it says, things are supposed to be done a certain way, like receipts are supposed to be money is supposed to be deposited in so many days and so forth. And so we test to make sure that they are following. Oops, it went away. that wasn't me. Then we test to make sure that the bookkeepers are and the schools are performing in line with their requirements. And if there was anything that fell out, any kind of control deficiencies, then we would report that to the schools for them and put it in our report for you to know that there was a couple discrepancies, whether it be for cash receipts or cash disbursements, and then what schools had those deficiencies.
Okay, great. And one thing that I did see was that sometimes sales tax wasn't charged, and so we need to make sure that our schools, when they're selling things apparently for profit or to bring in money to the school, they have to charge sales tax. Is that
correct?
Is that your understanding? Okay, great. Anything to expound on there, Ms. Saunders, about that? No? What I said? Okay, great. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just liked hearing the word unmodified.
I like to hear everything's good. And that was it? All right, great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Second report and presentation, Dr. Lori Breslin, on the new statutory requirement regarding classroom libraries.
Good evening.
Chair Choate.
And I do want.
Could I just say one thing? I know some people left that, I didn't know if you wanted me to clear up maybe some, and to let the audience know that I would be speaking tomorrow at Palmasola for those individuals that were leaving in case they had questions there that we couldn't address them here, that were in public comment.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and explain the event tomorrow. I know some of them left, but.
You want to get them. I did want to clarify at the end, because we do not engage in the conversation with public comment. So I did want to clear a few things just for factual information, because there's some information out there that I'm not sure how it was derived, but I would like to clear up a couple of things. Number one, I will be at Palmasola tomorrow evening to speak at a SAC meeting. So any parent or community member that would like to be there, it'll be at 6 o'clock. I'll just say two things about the conversation and what was stated. First, for the record, there have been no official board meetings or decisions or discussions about Palmasola. Hi, I can't get into a conversation. I just want to clear up a couple of things before you left, because I will be tomorrow at a SAC meeting, and then I can answer questions there, but tonight's not the night. Secondly, there was a report done of our facilities 5 years ago. 8 buildings on the report were deemed in poor condition. All the buildings have been addressed in our community except for 2. The 2 that are left are this building that we're in discussions of how to address it, etc., and Palmasola. All schools that were older than 30 years, we submitted a report to the state to get their recommendation of how to proceed with the dwelling. We've done that on all of them. The state gave us back a report before Christmas break that said cost effectively, it's very aged. Many parts of the building were built in, I think, 54, and their recommendation was to tear it down. So what does that mean? That means the board has a workshop. New board, start of the year, it will be on February the 17th to talk about what that means. There has been no board meeting, no board vote, no board workshop, no board decisions. We have to address what the report says and how we will rectify and move forward. So I just wanted you to know, those are the facts. I will be there tomorrow night if there's any questions or concerns or conversation, but that way you're leaving that nobody can speak and have a dialogue in the meeting, so that way you have the information regarding some of those concerns. So I'll be there tomorrow. I don't want to take any more and so forth. If you're leaving anything, you can give it to the agency clerk over there. Yeah, you can give it over there. They'll be glad to, and I just wanted to clear that up before they left.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Breslin?
Good evening.
Yours. And board, I'd ask just if we hold our questions, let you do your presentation, and then ask questions at the end, because we may have questions you're going to answer later on.
Appreciate
So-
that. And I appreciate the time this evening, here to talk about classroom libraries specifically related to House Bill 1467. You all know me. For those that are, sitting in the room with us, I have 20 years in education, specifically driving a love for literacy and reading. And so this is near and dear to my heart as we work to continue building classroom libraries and supporting our schools. And so looking at House Bill 1467, I know you all are aware of this, that it was signed into law. In December, we received a memo from the state further defining the definition of what they mean by a school library. And so that school libraries include elementary classroom libraries. And as such, everything in a classroom library needs to be cataloged, vetted by media specialists, and posted on a website in a searchable format. The DOE released their training that I spoke about at a previous board meeting for our media specialists. Our media specialists had the opportunity to take part in that training. I also, watched the training and received my certificate. And in that training, you'll see some of the elements contained in this presentation that points to the reason why we needed to have a system to support our classrooms. And then on January 18th, at a principal meeting, we spoke specifically to the training as well, knowing that our principals needed to be well informed. So this is directly from the training. A library media specialist, as you can see here, certified by the state, and they are authorized to make selections of materials available to students in the school library, books included on a recommended or assigned grade level or classroom reading list. And then school principals are responsible for compliance with school district procedures for the selection of library materials. And of course, we're going to have further conversation about procedures this coming Friday. Directly from the training as well speaks to how we should be selecting library materials, and this would involve classroom libraries. And so all materials in school and classroom libraries or included on a reading list must be, and you see the three major headings. So while we know it's appropriate for grade level and age group, students' ability to comprehend, it speaks specifically to statute 847.012, and then the training goes in to offer more detail exactly what they mean when they're talking about pornography. And so it goes in why there's no statutory definition. It goes into further description based off previous statute. So within that definition is the statement harmful to minors, and that's the part that they draw out to say, okay, what are we talking about when we mean harmful to minors? And they offer A, B, and C as taken here. It still leaves room for further definition if you read into it, but the bottom line is we have to make sure our media specialists, who are experts, are able to take a look at material and make the appropriate recommendations. And then we have to comply with the law, which means we need to make it in a searchable database on our website. And so how does this happen? Well, I'll tell you one thing that we can't do is stop teachers focusing on their students. And so we devised a plan where we have a large, and I appreciate we have more people coming forth to volunteer. I've spoken to many community members that are willing to volunteer, dive into reading volunteers who are already screened for volunteering with our students, are ready and willing to go into our schools, working with principals, so that we can go into the classrooms. Teachers can continue focusing on their students. They have a heavy lift, a heavy load, and we want them focused on instruction. Our media specialists have a heavy lift and heavy load within that training. As you saw, if anything is deemed inappropriate and falling into that definition, there is the threat, and it's in the state training, of a third-degree felony. And so our job is to protect our staff, and by having a set system, everyone knows the steps they can take in order to remain safe, in order to focus on their work, and so that we can, and we've broken it up by responsibility here, But it starts with volunteers going in, looking to see what's already in our Destiny system. We have a database that we've created at the district level of all items. We have a district media specialist that we've looked at and reviewed. That's up on our website already. Every school, you go to curriculum, you can link on that, see it. All of that material is available, is ready. It can be in classroom libraries. The only thing we need to do now is take that additional material, catalog it, have it reviewed by media specialists, and that's the massive heavy list that our volunteers are going to help us lift that. And then we can go through and systematically have it all cataloged so every parent knows what their child has access to in the classroom. Teachers can continue to teach, and media specialists don't feel like we're putting all of this on them because it's an impossible lift to do it. We're blessed. We have a media specialist at each school. Not every district has that. But nonetheless, coming together and doing this in a systematic way with the process is the best way to adhere to the law, keep the focus on instruction, and make sure that we're supporting our staff. And so that's what we've done here to roll out the support for classroom libraries. Questions?
I don't have anybody lit up on legislate, so if you want to click on that, Ms. Messenger.
Well, I was just waiting, but I do have some. Just to go back to, I guess that is your last page. I didn't even realize I was so. You kind of listed in the beginning of your presentation, the process. The new rules that got put in place. And my question was, do you know of any other states that have these same rules put into place?
I don't know any states that have these same rules, but across the entire state of Florida, every elementary school has to have a list of a searchable database, but I don't know beyond Florida.
Yeah, I understand in Florida. I just was curious if you knew of any other states.
No, ma'am, I don't.
How arduous is it to become media specialist certified?
Oh, it's no easy task. If you want to become a media specialist, first you would go in and see what the state requirements are. But it involves going to school, earning the degree, as any subject area. But in this case, there are specific classes that you have to take before you qualify for that state certification. And now there's an additional state training added to that. So it's above and beyond your normal bachelor degree, right? In most cases where they've gone into education and then they go back for additional schooling and coursework to have the qualifications to become certified by the state.
You may not be able to answer this question, but when the state gives bonuses for teachers, are media specialists part of that bonus program?
I cannot, I'd have to consult with Mrs. Saunders or HR. I don't want to say. Thank you.
Can you answer that question for me?
I'm not aware of any.
Thank you. I have another question. It's about the online libraries that we have, like the digital ones,
Yes.
not Destiny, but like Epic.
Right.
Or, well, that's just the one I can think of right now. For sources like that, how, that's not really in our control, right? I mean, like it's like a resource, and I think it's a great resource, but it's a resource that, I guess my question is, does the school district set which books are in a resource like that?
So in some cases, for example, we partner with Renaissance, and we're able to set parameters on what items are available on Renaissance.
Okay.
So it's working with each vendor. So it's a bigger answer than that. But we do have a process for apps and software approval, so that if it's being used in the school, we can determine how to monitor student use of that product.
Okay. Another question I have is, there were comments about teachers being afraid to use their classroom libraries. And I know I've heard that. I know that as a teacher, I have teacher friends that are in multiple counties that have had similar concerns and issues in other counties, so it's not just Manatee County. And when this started to happen, I asked our superintendent, what can we do to support our teachers? Because if you're gonna have to catalog it, what can we do? What resources can we utilize? Can we have subs? Can we create a system where they can barcode scan it? I don't know if that's possible. I mean, like, I know, like, I had a classroom library that had hundreds upon hundreds of books, and it, like, I have a scanner on my phone. Sometimes it works.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't, right? So, because if I want to look up a Lexile level, well, that one worked, but this one didn't, right? Okay, so what other systems, other than typing it into an Excel sheet, are there other systems out there to make this quicker and easier for our teachers?
Yeah, so we've had a couple recommendations on apps that we're looking at.
Okay.
As far as getting subs, again, that puts a burden on our teachers. You know, I remember from the classroom, being out for a day and having a sub was a tremendous amount of work in preparing and then
you're right.
and then grading after the sub. And so we are incredibly blessed that we have community volunteers already screened, ready to go. A database of 500 through the Dive Into Reading program. And so I think that's the first start. And so we've started a tip sheet for volunteers. And if anyone is interested in volunteering, they can certainly reach out to me and I can add them to the list. But they'll be able to go in with tips on how to make the process smoother as we're learning from volunteers that have been doing it already. Like, hey, if you do this, it goes faster. If you do it by grade level, it's faster. If you do it by grouping the books, it's faster. And then that database is pulling together spreadsheets from each school, which, you know, we need it for each school. But then we at the district are combining them, narrowing out duplicates so that we can better vet the programs to make it a faster process. It's not easy. I mean, it's going to take a while, but we have a process, we have a plan, and that plan doesn't involve making our media specialists and teachers do all the work.
Right. So okay, so here's my question then. In the meantime, what happens? Do students have access to books? And if so, how quick is that process? Can a child go to the library or their classroom library or Epic and still get a book that day? Or do they have to then wait for a media specialist to give that a thumbs up? I mean, how quickly is that happening, I guess, right now? I know that will change over time. I understand that once this all gets in there, it'll still be an arduous process every year for a teacher to add in new books. That will never go away because teachers continually are adding more books. So that will always be an arduous process for teachers. But it'll be smaller amount of that in the future. So my question is, right now, in the meantime, what do you envision is happening?
So I think it's site specific. I was reading at an elementary school yesterday, and the classroom I was in, the teacher had their books ready. They had been in Destiny. The classroom library was open. It depends how quickly we get volunteers in. If we're able to say, these are all in Destiny on the district list, they're ready to go. We hand district resources, with the purchase of ELA, it comes with textbooks, it comes with also readers for students. All of those are approved, ready to go if we've handed it from the district. Our school libraries are all open and have thousands of books ready in our school libraries as well. Yes, in some situations you will have a classroom where the teacher hasn't had a chance to go to it, understandable. And so those are where we're sending volunteers first in situations where the teacher's like, I can't, and we have a list and we're going through it. Can I give you a time on that? As quickly as the volunteers are able to get in, check the list, make sure they're on Destiny or on the district approved list, they're in the library ready for students.
So if it was purchased with the curriculum, yes, that is good to go.
Yes, and we have a series of other vendors that we partner with, and all a part of our curriculum resources that it's also posted on the website. And that list is, if you go on our curriculum page, you'll see the Destiny link that's been there, and then you will see the district list, and it's pages of approved materials that are all accessible.
What about online resources that are not digital libraries, but are used for academic purposes in our classrooms? For instance, IXL or Legends of Learning, and those are just elementary examples.
Right.
But they have some sort of library, perhaps. I don't know if IXL does. I know Legends of Learning does.
IXL, no, but Legends of Learning, and that's an improved resource from the district that we've already vetted. So that's available for use.
Okay, how is that communicated to schools? Because I know schools where they're not allowing those types of resources.
Okay, so I will have to go and clarify, and that's part of the rollout with any new change, is that we definitely find hiccups, things that need to be smooth, and then I'm in conversations with schools all day long to try to clear up anything like that that is a misconception. And then we simply send out additional communication, talk to the principal, talk to the teachers to the best that we can. And I understand why there's apprehension. I mean, you talk about, you know, if getting in trouble for possibly what is in your classroom library. I understand the concern, and the best we can do is go determine where the communication gap is and close that gap.
Sure, and for educators, I always think probably nothing, well, very few things matter more to a teacher personally than their reputation.
Yes.
And so they wouldn't want to do anything that tarnished that.
Right.
And so I think that's where a lot of the apprehension is born from.
I understand.
And I get it too. But I suppose my largest concern is students that are coming from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. And I say that because somebody that has the means, if their child can't have access to the books in the classroom, they will be able to either drive their child to a library, or they might be able to go purchase the books for their library, or they might have a tablet so their child has access to the digital library through Manatee County Library. There are other means. But if you are working 2 or 3 jobs in order to maintain your household, you don't have a car, or you don't have a way to drive there because you're working, or you don't have the means to purchase a new book. You may not have the means to have a tablet or to even get that access. So I have concerns with this stall that we have now and how that'll affect certain segments of our population far more severely than others.
Right.
And I don't, I just, that, I have a sincere concern there.
As do I. And so we've started with Title I schools for our initial volunteer list to go and receive the most help. Our school libraries are all open and available. So at any time, a student can go check out a book from a school library.
Okay.
And we all have them staffed with media specialists in there as well to help direct kids and pair them with the correct book. And we know that there's a science to that. You know, you gotta direct the student, pair them with what's appropriate for their reading level and what matches their interest. But those are open, and we encourage students to go take advantage of our school libraries.
Okay. Thank you. That was all my questions.
Mr. Chatham.
Hello, Dr. Breslin.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Good. So I was reading through your presentation here. So on the second slide, which I guess is really the first slide after the opening slide, it says in the second bullet, requires districts to post on elementary school websites the materials maintained in elementary school library media centers and materials found on required reading lists. Define school library to include elementary school or elementary classrooms. So is this only applicable, when I say this, what we're talking about, to elementary schools, or was?
So the posting on the website for a searchable database is elementary specific. However, the requirements to meeting to what we're providing our students for reading material encompasses all reading material, right? And so that's why in our secondary, the lift is a little different in secondary, but we're still ensuring that secondary teachers, secondary media specialists, secondary school leaders understand, like, this is what you need to be looking for, what you're required to have for any material that you are allowing a student to read in your classroom. And so we're still vetting and going through, but it's It's a different lift than the elementary where you're putting it in a searchable catalog.
Okay, so in an elementary school, it has to be in a searchable catalog where a parent or any citizen can go and find it on our website, but that's not the case for middle school. Well, what do we define elementary as? K through 5, right? So when you say secondary, so that rule applies with a searchable database, K through 5. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and let's see. So the lady from the Florida School Board Association member at large, I'm not sure exactly. The FAME, okay, great. Said something about you already have a policy in place, and that's what I heard her say, is there, and why aren't we implementing it? Which, in a previous conversation I had with Ms. Saunders, and ma'am, you're certainly welcome to chime in, you said something effective. We've never really had a procedure in place for vetting things that show up in the classroom. So I see a dichotomy there. There is the policy that she says, well, were you talking about, I shouldn't talk to the public, I'm not allowed, I go to jail or something if I do, but anyway, so there's a policy for libraries, but there's never been a policy in place for classrooms up until this point, and what we're doing now is implementing a policy for classrooms. Is that?
You are correct. This law went into effect also in July, and we read the statute very literally, and we ensured that we had all proper procedures for the media centers, or what is traditionally classified as a library. Okay. We've always had a procedure of vetting and so forth there. In addition to, and back to partially Ms. Messenger's question, we always have provided additional novels that have come with our textbook purchases for teacher classroom libraries. Those are accessible today. They're already on our list. They're allowed to be checked out or given or whatever the procedure is anytime, right now. Those are good to go. We have never had a formal process of identifying or cataloging or vetting teacher purchase their own books, novels for their classroom. Many times people get books donated that they can read, they go and purchase them with their own funds, and they provide a library within their classroom. So when the state clarified this bill, they ensured that all districts understood that not just the school library or media center was what they were implying, it's this portion too. We had not incorporated that at the beginning of the school year. So now that we knew that, all of our media specialists were trained, and now we're going through the process and procedure of those personal books, personal items that teachers may have in their classroom that we've not checked to make sure they comply with the statute. So you are correct. We have not had a process. Now, the books that we've bought, but that's not always in every situation what is comprised of that teacher individual libraries in their classroom.
So if we had a process in place previously, unfortunately, we did find some books, I remember last fall and maybe in the summer, that were not appropriate. And I'm not trying to explain, but they slipped through the cracks. Is that a good analogy? They slipped through the cracks, or how did
there were some books discovered that are not in compliance with the current statute. That is correct.
Okay. But we're looking at them, we're taking input from the public, and we are methodically, but efficiently making sure that those books are not in our libraries. Okay.
That is correct.
So we've had a library policy in place. Maybe some weeds got into the garden, and so we now have to go weed the library garden, so to speak, and we're putting a new policy in place so that classrooms can also be vetted to make sure that they're in compliance with the law. Was that a good summary?
That is correct.
Okay.
And as Ms. Messenger stated, once we get everything current, moving forward, it's not going to be nearly as labor intensive, because anything coming in both those situations will have a process of vetting prior to that. But it's just, now we're playing catch up for the classrooms.
Now, could you go through us quickly how, if Mr. Teitelbaum tells a story and he tells it to Mr. Dye and Mr. Dye tells it to me, by the time it gets over to you, it's going to be a little different, most probably, no matter how truthfully we try and tell the story. So what happened last week you met with the principals, I assume, and whatever you told them, somehow they thought that some of them thought, and maybe it's an exaggeration, but what they needed to do was take a blanket and put it over their books or something, because they, for whatever reason, felt concerned that that's what had to be done. So could you help us understand the process that you used to disseminate this information, and then what kind of a summary of what you told them, and then what the principals maybe did or didn't? And I guess you don't know what the principals said, but I'm just curious about how it got from here's the guidance from the superintendent to I have to take a blanket and put it over my books, and why maybe some teachers thought that. So go ahead.
Well, I think everybody wants to be in compliance with the law.
Okay.
So the information providing today in the workshop and the board was very similar. The slides were a little bit longer, but this is the information that was shared at the principal meeting. Very similar to what was shared with the media specialist training. But I think when you go back and you're conveying to your staff and your teachers, and they may have books that have not been vetted, I think everyone's going to determine how best to address that until they can be in compliance. So we know that many teachers out of their bookshelves have books that are already in Destiny that have already been approved. But is it going to take time for to figure out which one of these did I buy, which one of these were bought with the district money? That does take a little bit of time. In the midst, we're in the middle of a school year, they're teaching. So I think in many, and I can't say what their thought or talking points, but they're saying, hey, right now I don't know if all these are in compliance. I'm going to just shield them till I can get to that item to make sure it's taken care of. So I would say that is what happened in some of those occurrences.
So it wasn't a direction from you that said you will cover up your books or turn them around to the wall?
Myself or Lori or anybody say ban all the books, remove all the books, cover every book. No, we said we need to have a procedure to make sure that you do not have any books on your shelves that have not been properly vetted or allowable. So get with Lori. We have 500 volunteers if you need them. I will tell you, I've been to some elementary schools this week. They've already brought their volunteers in. Some of this has already been taken care of. It's done. All the books are on the shelf. There's no issue. Some only have books that have been bought from the district. If that's the case, none of that should be covered. It's all fine. It's what they have that could be personal items that if they're not already approved, need to be approved before they're giving access to children.
Okay.
Per the statute.
So what I think I heard you say is there was no direction given to cover books, turn them around to the wall, put them in boxes, or hide them. However, it was explained to them what the requirements of the law are and what procedures are being implemented to make sure that we're in compliance with the law. Some teachers may have chosen to turn books around, to cover them, put them in boxes because they were concerned that maybe they inherited a collection from a previous teacher, and here's the law and here's the penalty, which is a third-degree felony apparently. And so they made their own individual decisions to put books in boxes, cover them or whatever. But there was no direction from the school system to tell them to do that.
We're communicating what the statute said,
Right.
what we need to do, how we can help them, but they are responsible for the items in their classroom that they're giving access to children. So if it's not been vetted, they're not familiar with the books, how they address that was up to the individual or the school principal, et cetera.
Okay. And then, so Dr. Brelson, does this, I know the posting on a website database that's visible to the public is required for the elementary schools, but does this same vetting process has to happen in middle schools and high schools too? I assume it has to happen.
We want to be sure all the materials available in the classroom meet the guidelines as stated.
So this process, we keep talking about elementary schools, but it should be happening at middle schools and high schools. I'm just curious, does this apply to charter schools?
Yes, it does.
Does it apply to charter schools too? Okay, great. Thank you for your time. I just do have a few questions, so guess what? That's why we're here. Okay, so we did not order people to turn books around, cover them, and that kind of stuff. One point I wanted to make, just for the general public too, is that we're talking about public school libraries here as opposed to a public library. And in my mind, a public school library is oriented towards minors. So we should all keep that in mind when we're talking about the guidelines and the laws that are applicable here, that this is not a public library where it's open to the public in general, where adults can make decisions in theory about whether their children have access to a public library. These are materials that are oriented towards minors. And so the law is, we saw what part of the law says, and that's a big distinction I think that we just need to keep in mind. These materials that we're talking about here are oriented towards minors. It's not just open to the general public at large. So did want to make that point. And then, and we still can, so how are we sure at this point that all of our library books, have we gone through all of our media center material? Because again, we found some weeds in the garden, but are we pretty sure there are no more weeds in the garden in our libraries at this point? Which also includes any kind of videos or magazines, or so the libraries are, the garden has been weeded, and now we're going into the classrooms and trying to weed those gardens, so to speak. And I hope that analogy isn't offensive to anybody, but that's the best one that comes to my mind. So, okay, great.
That is correct.
That's all the questions I had. Thank you very much.
Ms. Spray, next on the board.
Thank you for your report. I appreciate it. I, for one, am glad that this has been brought to light. I've been in this room where people have advocated against books that were discovered in the schools, and it was just glossed over. And for the governor to finally, and the DOE, Florida Department of Education, to make this policy and pass it down to the districts, I applaud, because somebody had to do something. These books got in, and I'm going to coin this phrase, media morals. There has to be morals when we're talking about our students. Now, with that, what is a policy, and I'll ask you and Ms. Saunders, direct that to you as well, for going forward, for teachers who want to bring a book into our district?
Yes, ma'am. So it would fall under the guidelines of has to be vetted by a media specialist, and then if it's elementary, has to be added to the database so it can be in a searchable format.
Okay. When say a teacher wants to bring a specific book into their class, or right now even, I guess, if they're looking at these books in the specific classrooms and a media specialist is looking at it, are they the only person that deems that that book's okay to stay? Or is there a second opinion? Maybe there might be somebody else that have read that book or looked at that book at another school.
Right. Well,
that principal or media specialist say, I don't like this book, but this media specialist says, oh, I think it's fine.
Right. So as it stated in here, principals are ultimately in charge of their libraries as well, working with the media specialists who hold the state certification and now the state training, and they've been trained. And then in conjunction with that, when you're adding to the library system, and we'll get into this Friday when we talk about the school library procedure, but the recommendation is from the state and from our district is when you go to buy and purchase library books, after the list has been vetted by the media specialists, reviewed by the principal, that it is presented at a SAC meeting, the parent organization meeting, for parents to approve as well, and then the books are available to be purchased.
Okay, so I guess I need to be a little more specific. If one principal and media specialist at one school says, I don't think this is age appropriate for my classroom shelf or media center, but the other principal and media specialist at another school says, I think it's fine, what happens with that?
So I think that goes into Friday's discussion when we talk about the procedure, because that would go with what the board will approve and decide as far as the entire procedure is concerned. That's my understanding, Ms. Saunders?
Correct. Any that are questionable will come to the board for final decision.
Okay, policy or book?
It will be your policy.
Okay.
But we're talking about any material that is questionable will come before the board.
Okay, and in that policy, we could, I mean, third-degree felony is pretty heavy penalty if a teacher brought in a book that was deemed pornographic and/or contained other materials that, quite honestly, students, we're here to educate kids in reading, writing, and math. And not a lot of this stuff should have ever gotten in there. How it got in there, it was infiltrated slowly, I think. And now we have to do this basic mass exodus of all of this material, which I'm glad we're gonna do. And to anybody that wants to volunteer, please contact the district. We need your help. I've talked to people in my circles and they're willing to help. Do they have the time? I hope they do. But I appreciate everybody that's willing to do that with any parent, any former teacher, grandparent. Please sign up. We need to get these books out of these schools. That's all I had. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Foreman?
Yeah, I have a list of questions. First, thank you for reporting for what you're going through right now. I know it's really challenging. Are we in a, to follow up on what Mr. Tatum was saying, are we in a position where we can say to the teachers who have covered up their books, uncover it?
Yeah, I
Is that
think
what I'm getting?
I think that, you know, I don't know a specific example, but I think it goes to, and as I said earlier, just strengthening the communication to the principals. If they have a situation where the teacher said, I don't have time to deal with this right now, I'm just going to turn it around or whatever, then we know we've got to bring some help into that classroom and get the teachers cataloged, the books cataloged so they can be vetted and get on the shelves, or in the ones that are already approved in Destiny and by the district can be immediately available.
So we're not telling them if they can't get to it right now, are we telling them leave the blanket on or off?
I'm not giving any direction of that sense. If it's approved by the district or in Destiny, it's immediately available to students.
Yeah, I get that.
That's, yeah.
All right. The third degree felony. I just want to clarify for some, the felony is not if they have it in their classroom, but, well, the third degree felony is not if they fail to cover it up, okay? The third degree felony is if a student, you know, if there's a complaint, if a student accesses it, if there's intent, I assume there has to be intent in that case. So I just want to, you know, for people who think that we're telling teachers, cover them up or it's a third degree felony, that's
Right, and I
a
think
step
it
too
speaks
far.
to the training in the slides,
Right.
you know, it speaks to adult may not knowingly distribute to a minor on school property, and then it goes through that.
The list that's going to be on the elementary school sites.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that going to be Excel or Destiny or both?
So the list will be in a PDF format where you can right-click and click search, and you can see the district list right now is in that format, and you could search and put in so that's how it's starting. Now, we do have conversations going on with Destiny where there is some availability, but that's, to get it up there immediately, we have the PDF. Moving forward, yes, we would like it to be all-inclusive, and that's work in progress.
Do we want teachers, I mean, the teachers own these books, you know, shouldn't they be separate from what's in Destiny? Destiny being that's what's owned by the district, and then these others are teachers?
And that's why currently it's separate until we're able to. Destiny does have, according to what I've been told, and I haven't had an opportunity to dig into this into great length, but there's a classroom library feature. And so there just needs to be more investigation from under development. So, right, so we're working on that. But yes, we certainly want the rights and property of a teacher to stay that property of the teacher.
Okay. Okay, for the volunteers, how long will it take to be screened so that they're eligible to get to work?
That is why I'm very happy that we have our Dive into Reading program.
because we have that list of 500 volunteers that have received level 1 screening, and so they're immediately ready to go. The rest of the process, I mean, it does take some time as we go through, you know, fall in line with what we're required to do for school safety, which is a top priority, and having them vetted so they can safely walk onto our campus.
I mean, if you.
And so generally when we work, depending on the amount heading towards the office that processes it, it could be, you know, 10 days.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, I just want to clarify here. Can the board override this? This is more of a question for Ms. Saunders. And it's one I asked on the telephone. Why can't the board say, this is nonsense. We'll comply with the law, but we're not going to do it right now. I mean, it's going to take time.
Well, that's a good question. And I have vetted that question. And what I was told is once a law goes into effect, the law is in effect. So I don't think the board can excuse a statutory requirement. And I don't recommend that. As I stated, this law really went into effect July 1. But they specified library materials. So we complied with school libraries, not teacher private libraries, which is why later I think many interpreted that law in that same vein, and they went in and put some clarifying language in a training to give guidance, because all districts were grappling with this issue and how to comply, because everybody wants to comply. Teachers want to comply. Everybody wants to comply. And so many may have, or some districts may have done both right out of the gate in the summer and took care of media centers as well as teacher classroom libraries. We did not, and most did not. So we are now having to address this in the middle of a school year, which is not ideal. But I back to your question, I don't recommend a mixed message. And as my conversation to the principals were, when the law goes into effect with clarifying language, the law is in effect. We are communicating the information. Those that are held responsible for the statute and enforcing the statute were conveyed that information, so.
So would it be correct to say that teachers were not required to enter their materials in Destiny until,
No.
or anywhere until the Department of Education came out in December and said classroom libraries?
Right, with clarifying, and then we had the training soon as we came back from the break, which was the 9th. So now we're just rolling out that clarifying language and the expectation of that statute.
Okay.
You are correct.
And then, Ms. Breslin, or Dr. Breslin, the volunteers, is their function to identify more questionable materials, or is their function to confirm it's in Destiny?
Confirm it's in Destiny or on the district list, and if not, they add it to the database so our media specialist can then vet the material.
Okay, so they're not,
No.
you're not having volunteers come in and go, this material needs to come out.
No.
Our purpose is to comply with the law.
Right.
And put our catalog
Yeah, per the
together.
statute, the media specialist should vet.
All right. Can teachers go into the library at this point, the media center in the school, and grab books, you know, as many as they want to
Yes.
take into their classroom?
Yes. Our school libraries are open and ready for students to come in and
And so
take advantage of
the media center can
large collection.
make up the gap right now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then I also just, you know, for everyone's information, I've spent the last 2 days at a Title I school doing the process of going through Destiny, and I have gone through 4 classes. It takes forever, okay? Just so public, even though if it may take you 10 days to get, the okay to come in and volunteer, you need to do it. We need you. It's going to take that long, it's going to take, I thought I was going to be in just for this week and then I'd be done. And there's too many classes in that school, too many libraries.
Well, I know the teachers appreciate the volunteers, absolutely.
So, thank you. That's it.
I had one more question.
Well, yeah, I have it.
Go ahead.
So, a couple things. First off, thank you very much. I know this is a giant task to when a law comes out, and now it's like, hey, now we got to comply. How do we do it with everything going on? So, I applaud everything that your team has done. Ms. Saunders, with your direction as well. It's a tough situation, especially in the middle of the year. Hindsight, you wish it was back in the summer when we had time to do this and do all that, but it wasn't. So thank you for your efforts. When we talk about lists and destiny and that sort of thing, if I have a classroom set of, let's just have 50 books in there, and they're all different titles, etc., and I look on the shelf and I see there's Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham, and I know that's approved. And we know that's on a list. Are we giving the teachers this list to say, here's the 100,000 books we've already approved, and they can literally look down a list.
Yeah, and they can, but it's massive.
Sure.
And so that's why we really are utilizing the volunteers to come in and say, this is on the list.
But if I've got 50 books,
and they're there.
I got 10 of them are Dr. Seuss's, I'm probably passing Dr. Seuss's because they're probably okay. I don't want to say probably. Maybe that's the wrong word.
Yes, but if you know that I've seen those in my library, or these were handed to me by the district.
Correct. If I'm in my classroom and I've got a boatload of National Geographics that I know are in the library already vetted, do I got to go through all those National Geographics?
You know it's in the library vetted.
Okay.
That's fine.
And so I just want to make sure that we're not making even volunteers, right? We're not double up in our efforts when if it's listed, and once it gets listed, it's on there. So, and I get it. This is not an easy task by any means. I do want to go back though and kind of just mention, as a teacher, you are always responsible for what's in your classroom and what you do and what you show. So just because now the state has said, oh, now we're going to give you a 3rd-degree felony or whatever, you were always in charge of the classroom and what was shown and was not shown. So this to me is just the next degree down. If in my history class I was going to show a video that was inappropriate and it came out as inappropriate and a student went home and teacher and they went and called the principal, etc., I'm in charge of the classroom. So I think this is not, to me, this is us protecting the teachers, not saying we're banning books. This is us saying we don't want you to get in trouble. Maybe you didn't know this book was there. Maybe you didn't read this whole book. And to me, and I know I'm not saying it's going to be an easy, it's not a burden on teachers and the volunteers that go in and you all as staff and do what you're doing. But I think we've got to take a step back and look at, we're doing this because the law is the law, and it's not that we up here created this law, but we're going to make sure you're protected from this law, and here's how we're going to do it. And I think that this isn't a ban on books. This isn't a ban on, you can't have a classroom set or a library in your classroom. It just can't be pornography, and it just can't be a 12th grade book and you're a 3rd grade teacher. So I just want to make sure that in my personal opinion, this is us protecting our teachers, because sometimes books are given and they don't have time to look at everything. And hey, a parent dropped off a box of 50 books. To go on to the flipping your cabinets back and turning in your sheets and things like that. I think that some of that's just a reaction of what this looks like, this burden, what this looks like. You could sit there and have the books and just tell the children, hey, we're not using our books right now. And they just don't use the books. As far as I know, there's not any book cops going school to school, classroom to classroom, looking and hunting for something right now. I mean, this is just implemented. We're trying to go through this process. So I don't want teachers to feel like all of a sudden this is coming to place and we're all coming, there's book police coming to make sure everything's under control. Just don't allow your books right now to go out until you feel like they're all vetted. I don't think we need to create more of an issue by throwing sheets over, turning books around, and that sort of thing. I think that we'll get through this. It's going to take some time. For those teachers that feel like, I don't have time to do this, and there's going to be quite a few, obviously, and I get it because we're asking them a lot to do already. How do they communicate? Are they communicating to the principal?
Yeah.
Principal's communicating back to the district saying, we need help with these 5th grade teachers.
Yes, and so the principals communicate back to us, and then sometimes it's very specific. My 5th grade in particular has a larger library. Can you come in and assist with that? Sometimes it's I want to start kindergarten and go through up, but we're going at the direction of the principals who know their campus. So they should talk to their principal, say, I need some help. I want my classroom library open, and we'll get it.
Okay. That's all I have. For me, thank you very much.
Thank
Mr. Tatum had another question.
Just a couple more comments. Again, you guys seem to have put together a pretty good process, and I'm glad that we cleared up a few issues tonight about the direction that you gave to the teachers and the principals and stuff like that. I wanted to let the general public know that I understand that they have a right to be concerned here. Even if there's one weed in the garden, you know, we shouldn't have let it in there. And so now we have to go in and weed out the garden. I don't want to give people the impression, though, that there are weeds in all these classrooms either, right? So it's not probably a very pervasive issue, but the weeds are there and they shouldn't be there and they should have never got there in the first place. And so the public has the right to be concerned, and hopefully we're addressing it. If not satisfactory, that's why they're here, or we're here, and they can come back and talk to us. And I also understand that the teachers' concern too, now that we've had this discussion. I mean, for instance, you know me, I'm not a big fan of the portion of the sunshine laws that says I can't talk to my colleagues unless I'm sitting right here. And so I'm very careful about, you know, anything that has to do with talking to other people, and I take a very conservative approach to that. So I don't want to minimize some of their reactions, but I would agree with Mr. Choate that now that we've had this conversation, I hope that maybe they listen to this or they get back in touch with you or Dr. Breslin, their principals, and take a more thoughtful and reasoned approach to getting this done. But I do understand their concerns. You know, I mean, the sword of Damocles hangs over my head every time I talk to one of my colleagues here outside of sitting right here, and so I can understand where the teachers are coming from here. If it's a 3rd-degree felony, it's hard to teach school if you're in jail. It's just one of those facts, you know. But, you know, now that we have this explanation and clarification, hopefully the teachers feel more comfortable and that they can go back to their principals or contact either of you to get further clarification. That's all. Thank you.
I had one more thing. So books that teachers cannot get to, they don't have the time that we've all expressed up here. Would you say, if you don't have time, pull it out, put it in a box? Is there a place that some of these books that they don't know or have not been cataloged can be stored until we get them reviewed?
Certainly, and I think Mrs. Saunders said, you know, the principal helps direct how that plan works. And in a case where they're like, you know, students, this we're not checking out from the classroom library right now, and that functions great, and the volunteer goes in. If it's a situation where you're sending in a larger team of volunteers and they want to be able to go through the books, and the teacher perhaps doesn't want their classroom instruction disrupted, then certainly they can be removed out, reviewed, and brought back in. It really is specific to where it works for the teacher and the principal. You know, we don't want to micromanage it to that level.
Okay, because again, to Mr. Tatum's point, this isn't a threat that's dangled over our teachers. They do a lot, and I've been to 3 different schools in the last week and a half, and there's a lot to do, and you know, I just think if a teacher has any question about what's in their classroom, and you fear that threat, if that, I think it's a law, not a threat, pull it out. Then you don't have to worry about it. That would be my approach if I were in the classroom, if I didn't have question of any kind of material. If it was a National Geographic, to your point, it might have been okay back then, but now it's not. So pull it out if you have a question. That's all I would say to the teacher and anybody in all the schools. So I appreciate the swift approach that Manatee County School District has taken.
Continue to support our teachers and work on our communication.
One more, sorry, Ms. Messenger.
Yep.
I haven't perceived that the reason that teachers are, my understanding of what you presented is that books need to be approved by a media specialist. So in the pipeline of how books will get to kids, there's now this extra piece.
Right.
Where it has to not only go through this process where, and I've heard two different verbiages, and I have another question about that in a minute. I have a request for Friday. But my understanding is that what the holdup is not, oh, I have a concern about something in my classroom, because Mr. Choate's right. We're responsible for what's in our classroom. No problem with that. I have hundreds and hundreds of books, and when somebody handed me a box of 50 books that they didn't want anymore, I went through every single one before I put them in my classroom. That's what I would believe any teacher should do. So that it's not a question of whether I have a concern about a book in my library. It's a question of, will this book get approved by the media specialist, because that's the new process, in time for Susie to be able to read that because it's appropriate on her level and it's something relevant to what I'm teaching. That's to me, the bigger issue here. It's not about, oh, no, it's not. That's not, it has to be approved.
Vetted, approved by the media specialist, and we want to make sure it's cataloged so parents
Right.
can.
Right, and I have no problem with that. I think that's,
Yeah, that's the big lift, is cataloging, you know?
yeah, I have no problem with the process, but I just want to be clear that it's not just the cataloging. It's also getting it then approved by a media specialist at a school that has time to do that. In the other 10,000 jobs that they're doing, they have to find the time to review that list and say, yep.
Catalogs. It goes into a spreadsheet, is vetted by the media specialist, then it gets added to the district.
Right.
So that's what I mean. It can't go through that until it's gone to the media specialist.
And that's my point.
It has to be there.
There's a bottleneck there, is my point.
Yes.
It's not, oh, I have a questionable thing, because like I said, I don't think that is a large issue. To use Mr. Tatum's analogy of weeds, I think that seems to be the most appropriate analogy I have heard. I've also heard the words mass exodus. I guess my question is, on Friday, I'd like a percentage. I'd like a percentage of how many books out of the millions I'm going to perceive that we have, because I did some math and it's probably in the millions, that would be my guess, of books that we have now, cataloged, maybe not all cataloged. I would like to know a percentage of how many have been to be inappropriate. I would like that on Friday, if you can, because is it weeds or is it a mass exodus? I think that frame of reference would be helpful to me. And probably the community, right? Because I think that's appropriate. But I just want to be clear, like, I totally support this process, but I want to support our teachers through this process. And I guess I want to know, to me, a bottleneck will be, cataloging it, but then also getting it approved. And there's only one person, and that person is doing 10,000 other things. They're doing morning announcements and test prep and whatever. I mean, like, they might be doing a reading group. They might be, like, how much time a day do they have to look through that list and go, oh, yeah, that green eggs and ham is all right. Yeah. Or oh, no, that one, yeah.
But Ms. Messenger, the great thing about having one common distribution, many teachers will have the same book in many classrooms and many schools. So if I've approved it at school A and school B has it, then it's on the list of approved, and it makes that process much quicker. So we have duplication of titles all throughout the district. So that is going to make the process a little quicker. But you are 100% correct. Having the media specialists now have to sign off on these, That is the piece that we've never done.
Right.
We've never, and in many cases, a teacher will walk in and a classroom library was left from the retired teacher that walked into the door. They didn't purchase those books, so they may not have gone through every one yet. So that is the process, that is the issue. But once they're deemed appropriate at one school, it's on the list appropriate for all schools.
Even those designated by each separate principal to determine at their own school.
So we'll put it on the district list as vetted. Now, when we go into a book that's been, and I don't want to get too much into Friday, but when we go into a book that's been submitted for reconsideration using our link on our website, then that process involves the school principal and everything else. But it needs to be submitted through our school website following the procedure that we'll go over on Friday. And then you'll also see the books that we have received through that process. It's all part of the board work on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Tatum.
So as a teacher myself, because again, I've taught at the college level and then as a substitute, let's say that I'm a high school history teacher and you know, I have a library of like 1,500 books or something at home. So I'm doing research on for my lesson plan tomorrow on the French Revolution, and I look up there and I see, oh, that's an interesting book by the French Revolution. I pull it down and I start reading. I'm like, this is really interesting. I'd like to show it to my students. A good point I'd like to make, but I guess I can't bring that book into my classroom unless it's gone through the process. Is that how this works at this point?
This is access for children.
Right.
To check out, read, take home, etc. Okay. Your materials as a teacher, as long as they comply with state statute and benchmarks and standards to be taught, you can use whatever materials are vetted and so forth. The classroom libraries and the media libraries are student access. Now, as a teacher, as Mr. Choate stated, you're responsible for the instruction you deliver. So if you're using material that doesn't comply with the standards or the state, then that's a different issue. But you bringing in a book doesn't have to, for your instruction, doesn't have to be vetted by the media specialist. Those books that we're talking about are for students to read at their leisure, to take out, etc. And that's what this process is about.
Or if I found an interesting research paper that I might want to cite, or have the students read an article and discuss it or something like that. This doesn't prohibit teachers from that kind of activity.
No.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your
Thank
time.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I know, Ms. Barber, that was an error on us, so you can come on up and do your public comment.
Oh, okay, I see right here.
I purposely signed up for after the presentation because I wanted to hear the presentation and the discussion before I made my public comments. So you are exactly right when you said the presentation was made at the principals meeting, and then the principals went back and disseminated that information to their staff. So the information that was disseminated was not consistent in every single school. And like it or not, some principals' interpretation of do not allow your students access to your classroom libraries until they've been vetted was cover them, box them, or do whatever to keep your students from having access. So not only did that happen in schools, but then, believe it or not, Manatee County schools are still a very small community. And those rumors spread like wildfire because I started getting calls from other schools that saying, I'm hearing that we have to put paper over our classroom libraries or box our books or whatever. My comment is, until your principal gives you direction, you do not have to do anything. So there has been great communication between Dr. Breslin, Ms. Saunders, and myself, and that has allowed us to help clarify a lot of this information. But I do not believe that it has been an overreaction of teachers to what they have been told in their schools. It has been the communication that's been shared with them, and it's caused a tremendous amount of angst among our teachers. And everything that you've said is right on, because it is not just a third-degree felony, but if a teacher's charged with a third-degree felony, that also comes with an ethics charge, which affects their certificate and affects their reputation. So I'm not going to belabor the point, but there's a lot of reasons why this tidal wave has occurred out in our schools. And we are working to try to help people have accurate information. But the number of resources that are available and the questions of, can I still use this and can I still use this, it's a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just the last thing with this report and this presentation, I think that we'd be remiss if we didn't go back and say, I want to say it was January 17th. This was supposed to be on a workshop that we pushed this back to be in a workshop Friday. So and that's, I'll take some blame as chair that we pushed that back to give us the time we needed for the other items at that day, which was the superintendent search. So I think that if, in hindsight, looking at this, this report would have been done 2 weeks ago, and then the communication to the principals would have been done, and I think it would have been a different situation. So that's on us. That's on me that we moved it and did that. But I want to thank everybody for participating with that presentation. We are 17 minutes over our hour-and-a-half break, so I am going to put us in recess for 5 minutes. Alrighty, we'll call the meeting back into order. We are at number 12 on the agenda, consent items. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the consent agenda for January 24th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion, and a second. And if you wouldn't mind putting in your vote when it comes up on the screen. Thank you, Christian. And that is consent items are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Move on to business item number 15, new business, non-consent items, approval of the annual comprehensive financial report and all official parts thereof for the fiscal year ended in June 30th, 2022. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the annual comprehensive financial report, or the ACFR, and all financial parts thereof for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022.
So moved.
I'll second.
For discussion, just to start, just a brief explanation, for the public on what that is actually we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sure, would we have
appreciate
our CFO come to the podium? She can give you.
Yeah.
All right, the annual comprehensive financial report, that is the one that was conducted by the Auditor General's office. It contains the financial statements, the management's discussion and analysis, notes of financial statements, and supplementary data.
And we saw that,
In the
as a
workshop.
board, we saw that in October. Yeah, it was a while back.
Right, and the audit committee also
Correct.
vetted it as well too.
Excellent, thank you. Any other debate or discussion?
Were there any findings in the audit?
It was an unmodified report, no findings.
Unmodified.
I like those words.
There's those words.
Yes.
Anybody else? Any
I had a
discussion, questions?
There's a statutory, number one, is there a statutory requirement for this report every year?
Yes, so Manatee School Board happens to be one of the larger ones, so an annual financial audit does have to be done every year. Because of the size of the county, the Auditor General's office comes in and audits it once every 3 years, and the other 2 years, the Manatee County hires another CPA firm to come in and do those years.
Okay, and what are we essentially saying with this document? The purpose of the document is to do?
It basically indicates that the financial statements are in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and the uniform guidelines, which is also the audit of the federal programs, major federal programs as well.
Okay. Yes. So that's what we're certifying as a board when we approve this motion, or?
It's a non-consent item, but yes, approving that you're accepting the annual financial statement.
And is that really our way of telling the public, this is our statement from the last fiscal year to you, the public, about the spending of the money in our school district? Is that?
I can
Sure.
answer this. This is a 3-year audit from the state, so it, as stated, every 3 years it's done by the state. And what the board is, they're receiving and accepting the report that comes from the AG's office, signifying.
But it's only this fiscal year, just
Right.
June 30.
Right.
They come every 3 years.
They only do 1 year of?
Correct.
It's only 1 year, right. Like next year, another CPA firm will be.
So this report is the report of the audit?
This is the audit report. This is the financial statements of the district that has been audited by a CPA firm.
So we audited by a CPA firm?
Well, the state of Florida's Auditor General's office.
Okay, so we sent financial records to the state and said, this is what we say we did, or how we spend our money, and then they look at it and say, yes, it looks like you have appropriately, based on the accounting standards that are out there, done what you said you were going to do, or spent the money legally, or?
So the district prepares an annual financial statement,
Okay.
and then the audit firms or agency or Auditor General's office comes in and conducts an audit where they actually perform audit field work. They go over internal controls. They go over the amounts that have been reported in the financial statements. Testing and verification is then performed on the particular amounts that are in the financial statements and verified. And then the CPA firm or the Auditor General's office then, after they have vetted and done their review, then they prepare a financial statement, and they actually put a letter of inside of the ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and it's indicating their opinion on the financial statements as a whole.
Which was unmodified.
Which was unmodified, no findings.
So the ACFR is the district's report with a letter put inside of it from the Auditor General's office, which you used to work for apparently, that says, we concur that there are no major findings based on the ACFR's Annual Comprehensive Financial Report that the school district sent to us to look at. Is that?
Based on the audit that the AG's office did, there were no findings for their audit for this past year.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to ask is it our report or their report? It's this ACFR.
It's an audit of your report.
The report is an audit of our
So
report.
you can actually have the annual financial statements comprehensive without all of the letters. But when it becomes audited, the letters from the auditor gets added into it as well. So the actual report does have.
Which I did look at, just so people know, but it's a long.
Yes.
But there's actually a spot in the report, let's see. Hold on, pull that up real quick here. Where is that at? It's past that. So inside the report, if it was just the annual financial report for the district, it would probably start right about at the basic financial statements. Well, it could start with the management discussion letter, like right before this. Let's see.
Yeah.
The point is, you've got some letters in front of.
Yeah, so there's some letters in front of where the actual, this happens in every audit report when a CPA firm comes in, they will issue an independent auditor's report. Actually, they have some other letters on some other opinions in the back where they report, where they're indicating their report on the financial statements, and they have their opinions. They will disclose their basis for their opinions. They will discuss what the responsibilities are for the management for the financial statements and the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements. And they also will include, there's another set of letters that they have actually further back, table of contents. Is probably the easiest.
Yes, it's confirming that we're in good standing.
Yes, and it's
no findings.
Basically putting their stamp of approval in the report. And so also in the back, besides that front letter, they also have an independent auditor's report on the internal controls over the financial reporting and on the compliance of other matters based on an audit of the financial statements performed. They also will have an independent auditor's report. It's like two sets of letters a little further back in the report on compliance for each major federal program and report on the internal control over compliance required by the uniform guidance.
Okay, so the school district builds this ACFR, is that a true statement?
We compile the elements in it, and it's audited, and then the auditor gives you notification of what all of our statements represent. Okay. Whether you had an issue or didn't have an issue. And if you did have a finding, it would cite it, and then we would have to have an action step based on those findings.
Who actually makes that book, I guess? Like, we make that book, we format it, put it together?
Finance department, yes.
Finance department, okay, that's what I want. And then we send it up there and they audit it and put letters in front of it that says you guys are awesome or you're not so awesome.
Technically, the audit takes quite a bit of time, so they work within our district for a number of months. We have to provide all of our records, all of our verification. Like she said, they go through the controls, the processes, they verify everything, that's what the audit does, and then they give us a letter to put in the report indicating what their finding was. or their
To
outcome
put it in
was.
perspective, they actually started to audit fieldwork, probably starting to work on the reviewing at the major federal programs that were going to get audited at first, probably about April, May, and then the report was released. All that work all the way around, and it was released right before winter break. So, I mean, it takes a pretty good, 6 to 8 months to really 8 months for a big one like this. Smaller school boards take less time.
So thank you for indulging me with my questions, but to me,
Absolutely.
this is one of the primary responsibilities, if not the primary responsibility of the board, and not being an accountant myself, and even if I were an accountant, that's $1 billion worth of tables and budgets and charts and reference this over here with the footnote there, and the star means this, except, so we're just counting on you guys to do your job, but, I need to understand the process so I can feel secure that when you guys are doing your job, that the process shows that our finances are in good condition. So thank you for indulging me with a few questions.
Thank you.
Did we have a?
I have
Oh, you
one.
have another?
Yeah, I just had one clarification. You said that this audit's done every 3 years.
No, sorry. The Auditor General comes every 3 years.
Okay, and they pick a specific year, right?
No, they do that current year.
They do the current year? Okay, I just
Okay,
wanted to
so-
clarify.
So an audit is done every year on the
Right.
district's financial statements.
Okay.
The Auditor General's office only comes in once every 3 years.
Okay.
To do this.
Right.
There's smaller school boards where the Auditor General office actually does every year. In the years that, but because law changed and larger firms are expected to pay to have a CPA firm come in the years that the Auditor General does not. So it's a rotational audit for the Auditor General.
That's what I wanted to see.
Exactly, so, but an audit is done every year by either a CPA firm hired and vetted through the audit committee, actually, by the district, or the Auditor General's office, one or the other.
And we do have audit procedure
Right.
done for a workshop, which is great,
Yeah,
in the next couple weeks or month.
come in.
All right, I know we had a motion. I don't see a second on mine. Christian? to
I
push
second it. I have a
Oh, never mind.
thumb it up.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, if you all would put in your vote to approve the ACFR. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Number 2 for new business, Superintendent.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the district's school internal accounts audit report as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2022.
So moved.
A second.
And this was the report that we just got tonight from Cherry and Beckert, which we appreciate them coming in. And so I don't think there's any discussion needed for that since they were here tonight and there wasn't any
Right.
questions on that. So if we can go ahead and plug in your vote there for the approval of the district's internal accounts.
Yeah.
That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 16, new business, no superintendent recommendation. The approval of the auditor report from Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. Do we have a report?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is the sales tax report from Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, which we discussed in the last workshop. Dr. Grusso presented and told us about it. And in fact, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Grusso sitting through our meeting in case we need her. But yeah, we have already had this.
Yeah.
So I will move that it be approved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion really needed for this? I know we discussed it at the time of. All right. Go ahead and plug in your vote there. Cast your vote, I guess we should say. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 2, thank you. And yes, thank you, the audit committee, yes.
Thank you.
New business, item number 2, board approval of the agreement between the school board of Manatee County and the Florida School Boards Association, which is FSBA, for consulting services that we'll be using, of course, for the superintendent search.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you. Any discussion needed on this? We discussed this in that workshop, and this was just
Yeah.
the formality part of us actually now accepting that them as our consulting firm. I guess, Mr. Dye, do you want to add anything to that since our representative?
I'll just let the board know that I reviewed it and approved it.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
So we got a motion, we got a second, and please cast your vote to approve FSBA for consulting services for the new superintendent search.
And this was just for the contract for FSBA.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you
Right.
very much. As far as workshop items go, we're filled through the rest of obviously January with this Friday having quite a bit. We've got February 17th on the docket as well. Of course, if there's any workshop items that we want to add to it, obviously in your board briefings, please let the superintendent know, and we will put this on for our next one. Obviously, this Friday coming up, pretty long one. Bring your lunch pail, and FSBA will be come back and presenting timeline and survey. So I'm excited to see that. So, any other new workshop items? Bring that up to the superintendent, and we will add those to the list. Pushes us to item number 19. Legal update, Mr. Dye, anything to let us know about?
Nothing more. We've got an inquiry from an outside firm, just as a matter of information, that are investigating a class action suit against social media companies for causing psychological damage to students during COVID. So we'll vet that and get back to you later. But kind of interesting, thought I'd mention it.
Okay. Thank you. Operations update from Mr. Wagner.
Very good. Good evening, Chairman Choate, members of the board, and Superintendent Saunders. Just 3 items tonight. Number 1 is February 3rd is the annual, it's 11th annual actually, Play with Your Fruits and Vegetables contest. Allows students to create art with fruits and vegetables in our schools. This year's theme is Florida, so you may be contacted to come and help us judge. In addition, while we're talking about food service, seriously, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Sciences recently audited us and our food service program, and they announced that there were no financial issues or findings with our program, which is a big deal. We serve about 8 million meals a year here in Manatee County for our schools, for our public schools, 8 million meals. So it's a big deal. Congratulations to Regina Toma and Food Service and her whole team. Number 2, we have a job fair this week. January 25th, it's at the Wakeland Support Center from 9 to 1. It's for operations and paraprofessionals. And number 3, in the fall, if you remember, we submitted a grant to the Florida Department of Education for our transportation department. We were just awarded $244,000. So we're rolling that out. All the funds have to be expended, of course, by the end of the school year. And basically, it's funds to support our current transportation drivers, our bus drivers, and they'll receive monies for attendance. So we're coming up with an attendance program, and also for some of the work that they do. In addition, besides the current drivers, we're also including future drivers. So the grant will allow us to cover the costs for the drug tests, fingerprints. They have their CDL covered for them now. But they'll also receive money when they complete their CDL, and then they'll be entered into the attendance program also. So our goal with this $244,000, of course, is to finish the year strong. We appreciate the Department of Education awarding us this money. We weren't the only school district. It was an entitlement grant for all school districts, but they just rolled it out, and we're moving forward with it. So thank you.
I just have a quick question, if I
from
may.
Supervisor
Yes. With that grant, and you mentioned CDLs,
Yes, ma'am.
do we offer funding for drivers that want to get a CDL?
So we do. So when people sign up to be a bus driver for us, they go through our CDL program here in the school district of Manatee County. And we actually have them sign an agreement that they need to work with us, work for us after they receive their CDL. But that's one of the requirements. We actually get drivers who come to us from other districts and maybe other career paths that they have. So they come to us with a CDL already. So, but it is it's a condition of employment, of course, to drive a bus. You have to have a CDL, but we do offer all the training right here on site.
Okay.
Right out at Matsky. All right.
Because I was asked that question out in the public. and
Yep, tell
I
them
was
it's
not. So I'm glad you
it's-
mentioned that.
It's really like almost a $2,000 benefit if you were to take that course somewhere else. So it's a big deal for us to make that part of the employment for here. And they don't pay for the CDL program.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, item number 20, superintendent, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to inform my fellow board members, because again, I can only talk to you about board issues while we're here, is that I sat down with Mr. Wagner and Mr. Rinaldi today just to get an update on the status of children arriving on time at school. And so I think there's still some concerns there that we might want to address in a workshop, and then part of it in a shade workshop. Because I still think to me, that's one of our core functions, is getting children to school on time. And there's a consistent issue and problem there. And these gentlemen are doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. They're trying to be innovative. They're putting Band-Aids and, putting spackle on the holes in the wall. But I think we as a board need to provide potentially more resources and talk about this, because there is, in my opinion at least, a certain percentage of children that are consistently not arriving at school on time, and that's just a core function we need to get right. I made the analogy, like if I were flying an airline up to Atlanta, 3 times a week for a business trip, and one of the 3 flights was not on time, I would not be a happy camper. And so this is a core function, and we might want to consider doing that as a workshop in the not too distant future, so that we can, because what's coming up here is our contract negotiations with, how do we pronounce the name of the ASME. And so that's going to be coming up, and we might want to get together and provide some guidance before that starts, and then hopefully put a new plan in place by the beginning of maybe the next calendar year or the next school year, so that we don't have this problem. We think we have a good fix for it before the new school year starts, because it is, just to me at least, a core function, getting the kids consistently to school on time. So thank you for allowing me my comments on that. That's it. Thank you.
Another quick question. Do we have a shortage of drivers now? Bus drivers now?
We do. Yes, ma'am.
By how many do you think?
Yes, ma'am. We have about, we're looking for about 35 bus drivers right now.
Because I got a call today about a student, the bus didn't even show up to pick them up. So I was like, wow, that's real concerning to me. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Tatum, because that did ring that bell too. So 30 drivers is how many?
30 plus, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
And if we have people call in like that, we want to know about that as well. I mean, we have, we do have drivers who do call off and are sick and for other reasons might not be coming to work, but we have front office staff who work the phones and do the scheduling. They get on the bus and they drive as well. So everyone's pitching in, but the reality is, yes, we don't have enough bus drivers or bus aides.
So you have a bus driver that calls in sick.
We do have that happen.
And, right, I'm sure. So the protocol would be try to find a bus driver. That would be the first thing. And then notify that if you couldn't find a bus driver for that route, then the parents would be notified that there's not going to be transportation. I'm just curious at
the
that.
process is, so if someone does call off, we do have an automated system. We schedule it into the computer, and the automated system goes out and alerts the families that the bus will be running late. We either have 2 options. Either A, somebody from the front office would drive the bus and do that route for the morning or the afternoon, whichever it may be. And then also the second choice is you would have the current transportation team do what's called a double back, where they would drop off their students and then they would go and get the other students as a way to cover. So absolutely no, all students are being transported to school, but like was previously stated, right, we do have it where some students are late,
Yeah.
just because we do have a shortage, and we want to correct that.
How late are they? By an hour?
It just depends. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how many bus drivers you might not have come. It might depend on the weather, the traffic. Right now in Manatee County, traffic is heavier than it is in August and September and October, or the end of the school year too.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different factors.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, thank you.
Begin there too.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
Just to kind of maybe emphasize the importance of, so on a given day, and I'm going over the numbers that I remember, about 98 drivers or so are driving around.
That's what we have right now.
Did you tell me at one point that up to maybe 10 or so on average drivers call off a day? So that's 10% of the drivers a day that are calling off on average. So imagine what that does to, I mean, as a former airline pilot, I'm thinking, 10% of the pilots just didn't show up for work today. You know, that really throws a monkey wrench into the schedule. So that's why I'm concerned, and I think we need to get engaged in this, because it's just not, they need more resources, and we have to, yeah, it's just, we can't let this go on any longer. We need to start addressing it, so.
I
thank you.
agree.
Thanks, Mr. White.
Thank you.
Thanks. Superintendent.
Yes, I just want to remind everyone that February 9th at Parish Community High School, we have our annual Excellence in Education Awards evening. We will recognize our Support Employee of the Year, our Educator of the Year, our Principal of the Year, our Assistant Principal of the Year, and it is a wonderful event. We've not had it at this venue yet, and we had to change it from MTC to a high school auditorium because the crowd has grown such. So I look forward to it and just seeing a portion of the wonderful educators we have working in our schools each and every day. So in addition to this, some of you were at Parish Community High School last week, where Gettle Automotive provided a wonderful donation for our automotive program, $25,000, as well as mentorships and many opportunities for advancing and working with the teacher and the students for not only providing high school services, but beyond high school. So we just have an amazing community that supports our students, supports what we're doing, and we so appreciate them. So those are my updates today.
Thank you. Board comments. We've got on my list how it is given to me: Tatum, Foreman, Messenger, Spray, myself. So, Mr. Tatum.
I guess for the public in general, for the people that might be watching this now or in the future, is, you know, thank you for the contacts that you're making, at least with me, bring your concerns to us. I would just encourage people to, if follow up with a phone call or something if you really have a concern. And some of the emails that we're getting lately about certain things are, I know there's some emotional issues out there and people are getting wound up about them, but I mean, take that, turn it around, imagine if you got that kind of email. And, you know, to me, I have hopefully the ability to say, yeah, people are upset and emotions are high, but I would encourage people to call us, talk to us, instead of just sitting down. You know, I actually have it set on my Google function on my computer on my Google account. It says, do you really want to send this email? And just to encourage people to say, you know, before you send that emotionally charged email that may not get the response that you want from some of us, I'll still respond to anybody that calls me or talks to me, whatever form it comes in, whatever the words say. But just an idea for people to take that second thought and go, do I really want to send that emotionally charged email? Or maybe I'll think about it overnight and pick up the phone and call Mr. Tatum or rewrite this email, because it inhibits our ability to effectively interact with the public and provide you the feedback and what you'd like to hear from us. So that's the only comment I have today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Foreman?
Yeah, the education awards coming up. Does this mean they're not gonna feed us?
I'm sure there's going to be food.
Okay, all right. And I'm definitely looking forward to Mr. Chapman's tuxedo, so. You know, that was the highlight of last year for me, yeah.
So that tells me what the dress code is.
Yes, it does. Mhm.
Black tie event, huh?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
Happy Literacy Week This is a little bit of irony, but as part of it, I got the opportunity to read yesterday to a class of first graders at Miller Elementary. They were adorable. When you all get the chance to go read, it makes not just your day, but the whole week. It was great. And I will be at Palmetto Elementary on Thursday. So, that's not tomorrow, is it? No. Okay. The Palmasola, I will be at the SAC meeting tomorrow, and I do welcome input from not just the families, but also the community. I mean, this is their neighborhood school, and I understand that, and I welcome any comments, even if they're angry. I'll take them. So, then the libraries. Thank you again, Dr. Breslin, for. I know it has been incredibly stressful. And I would encourage my fellow board members. We're all we've all gone through our whatever, but we're qualified. We could walk in, and start working, start doing this, and it's first of all, it's a service. It's an acknowledgement to the teachers that we support them. But also it gives you a chance to see what's in those classroom libraries. And I can tell you, they're clean. And the thing that hurts me the most is when I see a book that should be in Destiny, okay, but it's not, because, like, take the Boxcar Children's series. I think they had 200 books, in that series. They don't have them all in Destiny. So, I'll have a Boxcar mystery that's got to go in the bin to be, it probably can be approved pretty quickly, but there are books on Constitution that got tossed aside. I mean, science, just some really wonderful materials are in limbo. So, it's just, the quicker we get this done, the better. Everybody will be happier. So I'll do what I can and encourage you all to do what you can. And believe that's it for me. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Messenger?
I appreciate that your priority is food at that event. It is always delicious. I wanted to give a shout out to 22 schools that had clean internal audits. So I'm going to list them all. Able Elementary, Anna Maria Elementary, Blackburn Elementary, Braden River Elementary, Braden River Middle School, Hale Middle School, Harvey Elementary School, Horizons Academy, Canaan Elementary, Lakewood Ranch High School, hey, high school, that's really hard, Manatee Elementary, Manatee High, MTC, McNeil Elementary, Mills Elementary, Myakka Elementary, Palmasola Elementary, Rogers Garden Elementary, Samoset Elementary, Stewart Elementary, Terra Elementary, and Tillman Elementary. All of you got clean audits, no findings in that internal audit report, and I loved that, and I just wanted to commend all of those schools for their hard work. The only other thing I wanted to, well, first of all, playing with your fruits and vegetables, I see that every night at my house. Probably not as artistic, I don't know, but still fun. Not to clean up though. But I had one thing that I wanted to bring up to the chairman for your consideration, because it is really your purview. And it has to do with seating arrangement. Prior to COVID, the CFO and the deputy superintendents sat up with us, and the superintendent's not going to like me saying this.
No, she's not.
I did talk to her about this. But the CFO sat there, deputy superintendent sat here, and the board did scrunch in a little bit more. Superintendent sat in the middle right there. I know, she does not go like that. I'm just asking for you to consider bringing the CFO and the deputy superintendent up here, if, however that would be worked out with all parties. And I ask that for safety and security reasons for them, and so that also they can sit here and like continue to do work on their computer, because their back is to the audience, and they can't be efficient. They can't do work. They'll read their personal email. They can't do, I mean, maybe they shouldn't be reading their personal email during a board meeting, but they can't do anything on their computer without somebody watching what they're doing. Let's say there was something that was safety and security related that came to Mr. Wagner. He can't even address it because of where he's sitting. Not to mention, I really don't think that this looks professional with these tables. That's a whole different issue. So that's really in the chair's purview, but my request would be that you at least consider finding a way to make this work a little bit better so that it's better for the employees that have to suffer through this, the political rambling, the politicians rambling for hours, that at least they could sit up here without their, that's my only request. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Actually, I have my hand raised.
Yeah.
I have a question for Ms. Foreman, actually for Mr. Dye. So I would like to attend the Palma Sola meeting tomorrow also, but I don't want to inhibit Ms. Foreman if she wants to talk, but.
I don't want to talk.
Okay, so.
Superintendent's doing all the talking.
I just want to make sure, so it's okay if we both show up there as long as we zip it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Just show up to observe but not get into a discussion.
Okay,
If you're both there.
great, thank you. That's
Good.
what I needed to talk about.
And I would like just remind that maybe you remind the crowd, like the attendees that obviously they're not.
Right.
I mean, obviously we just did now, but maybe they're not watching. But
Sure.
I had the same question as that. So thank you.
That's a good point, so that everyone understands why there's not a dialogue with the board.
Correct. I just don't want them
Because
to
it can't,
say Ms. Foreman's
because
not even
that's
answering my questions when she can't.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, okay. Thank you. And then Ms. Spring.
Okay. I had the opportunity to visit 3 different schools, like I said earlier. While I was at Oniko Elementary, I was about to leave after I got a gracious tour by the principal. Williams, I think is her name. Very dedicated, has been there 3 years. And for Oniko, I guess that's a long time. But when I was leaving, Felt was delivering the bags that I volunteer to help on occasion at Palmetto. So I was able to help unload, and that's how I lost her card, because I was unloading a car onto a cart, all these bags of food. So that was really a good experience for me. I toured Manatee Elementary, and they were very gracious, and the principal there, whom I didn't get a chance to talk to because she was actually interviewing. So that was a good thing. There was 2 people waiting to interview, so I was like, oh, good. Somebody's coming to check out the school. And then I also went to Palm Sol because of the hype that's going on around that, and I don't call that hype in any kind of derogatory manner. I wanted to see the site. So again, I was going to ask the same thing. If we wanted to attend while she's talking to the SAC, that's permissible, as long as we don't dialogue with each other. But I did get to tour that school as well. So, and I've been doing homework on that school so I can educate myself. And it's a great little community out there. And we just have to go from there. I will say that, but that is my comments. I think that tonight was a good meeting. The public was gracious in their passion on both of the hot topics that are going on right now. And again, it's not, what we do up here is, I don't make a decision just based on what I read on social media what I read in email or by the phone calls. I think about it methodically and how I would feel if I was in that situation. To your point, think before you send the email. I think methodically how I'm going to approach a topic. And that's what I've done with the books, and that's what I'll do with anything else moving forward. And because there was a perception before I toured the school that wasn't true. So I'm glad, and I didn't even know. I just didn't even know the idea was going on, and I just was planning on going out that way. So I appreciate everything that the public has brought to us to the board, and I appreciate the courteous demeanor that they brought with them. So that's about all I have, and I did have a good week with the schools. It was nice to go in and visit.
Good. I'll just be short and sweet. I want to thank Dr. Breslin again, Superintendent, and for the
Yeah.
staff that really did with the book procedure. I think we're getting some publicity for this because we're the first one out the gate that's doing this, and really, to me, like I said, this is for the teachers, and they may not feel that right now because of the enormous task that this is going to be, I absolutely agree. If we all can get in there, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Because there really is a number of 500 people that are going to help. And I really think we've got to take advantage of that because it is a giant task. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that the procedure and the process that we've created here in the district is for the teacher to hopefully help the teacher not have a book that's all of a sudden found, whether they thought they even knew it was there, et cetera, who knows. The only thing we can do is react to what the Florida Department of Education tells us we need to do, and we need to do the best thing for our teachers to protect them in this situation. There were times, even last year, we talked about other statutes that came along, and my biggest concern was, are we going to train those teachers in those procedures and in the new statutes to protect them? And so I think that's what we're doing. It's a giant task, and I just want to make sure that the public knows that this is not banning of books. We're not throwing books into a fire everywhere. This is we're going to look at them and say, are they appropriate for this classroom? And if they are, great, and we'll vet them and leave them in. But I do want to let the teachers know I feel like it's us looking out for you, because obviously a third-degree felony is not something we want for you.
Right.
With that, I don't really have other much. I wish all the girls' weightlifting season districts are coming up Saturday, so good luck to, I know, Palmetto, Lakewood Ranch, Manatee will be all in the same, and Braden River will be all in the same district, so good luck to them. I wish them all the best. One particular girl, the very best. But other than that, thank you, board members. A very good meeting. And then the public, thank you very much, too. A lot of emotion with the books. And I know Palmasola has an extremely great following and the tradition that's been there forever. My parents went there, my aunts, uncles, etc. So I know that they're very passionate about their school. So I do want to thank them, especially the ones who came and spoke, the ones who were in the crowd. Very respectful, and I hope they continue to let us know how they feel. And tomorrow night, I hope it's a good attendance, and let us know what their feeling is on the school, because we don't know unless we know, and so we love to learn to see what their thoughts and opinions are. So with that, we are adjourned, and we will see you Friday.